Hello, Frizzle fanatics! As part of my experimental project of reading series out of order, I decided to push logic to the limit and read the last Malazan book without reading any previous Malazan books. And I will elaborate more on that experiment in its own video, which will be coming soon, and I'll link that in the footnotes when it happens. I only made it 2 chapters into this book before giving up because, yep, it turns out if you skip that much lore, eventually it does become unpleasurable. But here's why I want to make a video about those 2 chapters. Because I am genuinely unsure if it's just I dislike the style of Malazan, or I would have liked this book if I had read the entire series leading up to it, and I need you guys, people who've actually read Malazan, to let me know. Should I bother reading the series, or are my complaints about Crippled God complaints that also apply to the entire series? And we are going to go through my notes chronologically as I made them. One of the first lines of this book is, I have no intention of explaining a thing. And I came into this book kind of wanting to feel attacked. I chose this book because I knew it would be an insane amount of discombobulation of not knowing what was going on. And I was very happy with this omen. I was very happy with the book straight up telling me, you're gonna be confused and I don't care. Honestly, it's a brilliant beginning paragraph to this book. My next insight was that reading this book felt like the experience of reading Beowulf, which is an Old English epic poem. There's some familiar tropes present, and I can get the gist of the interesting writing style, but also I'm really confused and it's like I've been dropped into an alien culture that I don't have any good touchstone with. My next note was that I didn't like how often the point of view was switching. I don't complain about this very often in my videos, but it is one of my bookish pet peeves if we have multiple POVs and we're switching, especially at the beginning, fast between all of them. I just want to be able to get to know one person for a chapter. Just give me at least one long chapter with someone, please, before switching. And this book is switching every few pages, which is only made worse by me not knowing who any of the people are. But even in books where I'm really reading a book 1 and it's introducing the characters well, I still hate fast POV switches. What the heck is all of these italics, poetics, asides? What does it mean? Because this book kept going weirdly into italics, and I originally thought it might be the inner voice, but then I saw other things that made me think it wasn't the inner voice, and I was really confused if, like, people in this world had, like, a second voice in their head that was talking to them in third person, or if they're just thinking about themselves in third person, and why was it always so poetic for, like, no reason? And this was around the time that I switched to listening to the audiobook, because I felt like the audiobook might give me better insight into what the italics were based on the voices in the audiobook. But like, I do think that this book is clever. I did enjoy most of the writing style. We'll get to the parts I didn't enjoy in a minute. This book does not use double quotation marks. All the quotation marks are single. And that really grinded my gears for some reason, because it felt like this book was just being like, weird to be weird. Like, what does that add to the narrative? Am I missing something from earlier books that explains why we don't use double quotation marks? It just felt like this book was being unnecessarily edgelord, and it made it harder to read physically. Next impression, I like Mr. 𝐿𝐻𝐒. I forget what this character was actually named, but that's what I named him in my notes. Then we go into chapter 2! Going into chapter 2, I was really hoping we would stop getting such often POV changes, because maybe the beginning of this book was just reminding us of all of the ongoing plot lines, and then we could actually settle into one. But no, it kept switching a lot. It was still annoying. The zombie throwing himself off a cliff and not caring about the broken bones is such a mood. Chapter 2 is when I finally let myself admit that this book was boring, because it was mostly dialogue scenes with nothing happening. And again, that might just be because it's reminding us of all the plot lines, but seriously, I was very bored with nothing happening and just people talking to each other about politics. Can't we get some decisions being made, please? On page 39, my notes say, finally! There is a moment where I kind of understand what is happening. I've forgotten what this note means, so let's figure it out together, going to page 39. This is the first time where we switched our point of view, but we stayed within the same group. So they were still talking about the same characters, and I recognized people's names and what was going on. And this did continue for a few point of views to stay with the same group, and I was so happy with that. This is where I started thinking that I might really continue with the book. I changed my mind on that at the end of this chapter, but for a little bit there, I was thinking that this book had hooked me. It was when it no longer continued following this group that I got bored again. And then I wondered again, what is the italic supposed to mean? Because in the audiobook, it kind of feels like it's someone's inner thoughts. But also, it's inconsistent. Sometimes it's using I, sometimes it's talking to the person in third person. Are there multiple voices in people's head? Is it just inner voice being weird? This book uses so few dialogue tags, even when people are thinking in their own heads, and it's just driving me insane with how difficult it is to follow basic narrative structures. Like, I get that Malazan is super lore heavy, is super political, super complex plot and characters. That is what I picked this book for. But did we really need to add on top of it super difficult to read on a bits and pieces dialogues tag level? I would say no! It definitely decreased my enjoyment of the book. And also this is where I just gave up on the audiobook after a while because the audiobook is almost incomprehensible without dialogue tags. You can never tell if it's in someone's head or out loud or what. And then finally, something actually happened. There was an evil witch. I can't even remember the plot point at this point. But we finally got characters making decisions, doing actiony things. And then I concluded that I like the character of Gruntle. And then I had the weird thought that I have no idea if everyone loves Gruntle or if this is a hot take. But as someone who read the first 2 chapters of this book, Gruntle is my favorite character. Let me know if that's a popular or unpopular opinion, please. And then I decided to admit my even more potentially controversial opinion that I ship Mappo and Gruntle. They have a nice dynamic. I have no idea what their dynamic actually is, but I like it. And then our point of view switched again and we were no longer following the same group. And I got disappointed again because I really thought the plot was actually considering going somewhere for a while, and then that momentum was just thrown out. How dare. And then my last note is a positive one, because I found a theme, which I love in my books, and it made me so happy to find any cohesive narrative in this mess of 2 chapters. Because earlier there was a conversation saying that the key to sentience was the need and structures of justice. And then here someone else said that sentience was actually in cooking food, both of which are interesting takes, and I enjoyed both of those discussions. But then I started looking through all my notes, and even though I ended chapter 2 on a positive note of being so happy that I had found this theme, I looked at all my notes and said, most of these are negative. It's kind of sad that it took me that long to find some kind of connective tissue in these chapters, and I don't think this book is for me. And then I started wondering if these problems that I had are because I don't like this writing style of Steve Erikson and the Malazan series as a whole, or if it's just I'm lacking so much context for this last book in the series that it feels like a mess when it would feel way more cohesive if I had more context, which I'm obviously lacking. So I need you guys, the internet people, to let me know, please. Your honest opinion, would I enjoy Malazan from the things I said in this video? Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos on Frizzle Fridays.